She was just 19 years old, out for a night of dancing and fun with friends. But Kenia Monge never made it home that fateful night of 2011. What began as a normal evening out quickly descended into a nightmare, where an act of depravity and evil stole away a young life filled with promises. This is the disturbing true crime story of the murder of Kenia Monge. Before we begin, we would like to send our sincere condolences to the loved ones of Kenia Monge, who fell victim to the abominable acts described in this case. Kenia Monge had her whole life ahead of her. The 19-year-old was studying broadcasting at a local college in Aurora, Colorado. Outgoing and kind, she had a natural talent for public speaking that made her a perfect fit for a career in front of a camera. On March the 31st, 2011, Kenia made plans to go out dancing at the popular 24K Lounge in downtown Denver with some friends. It seemed like just another fun night out, but by the next morning, Kenia had seemingly vanished without a trace, launching a desperate search by her frantic family to find her. Little did they know the horrific events that had happened to their beloved daughter and sister in the hours after she disappeared from the nightclub. Kenia had immigrated from Honduras to the United States at the age of 12 to live with her mother, Maria, who had come to America years earlier to build a better life. In Aurora, Maria had married a kind man named Tony, whom Kenia grew to love as her own father. Despite her humble roots, Kenia was industrious and social, quickly picking up English and making many friends with her warmth and her infectious personality. By 19, she was living with her boyfriend Louis, studying hard and enjoying an active social life like many college students. She had acquired a fake ID to go to clubs and nightlife events since she was underage. She did not realize this unlawful act would lead to the horrific end of her life. On that fateful March night, Kenia was out dancing and drinking with a group of newer friends she had made rather than her usual close-knit circle. The night started out at the 24K Lounge in Denver's lively Lodo district for Kenia and her group of friends. They drank, danced, and had a good time in the pulsating club scene. Around midnight, an intoxicated Kenia told her friends she was going to use the restroom. She left her purse and her phone at the table, asking them to keep an eye on her belongings, but Kenia never returned. Bouncers had noticed the petite 4'11" Kenia stumbling around drunk and ended up forcibly removing her from the club without her phone, keys, money, or identification. Her friends assumed she had perhaps left with someone she knew and took her things home, thinking nothing of it at the time. The next day, Kenia's boyfriend Louis became alarmed when she didn't come home or respond to his incessant texts and calls. He reached out to her sister Kim, knowing the two were extremely close. But Kim also had not heard from Kenia since the previous day, when they made plans for Kenia to go out. Now frantic, Kim called their parents, Maria and Tony, with the worrisome news that Kenia had never made it home after going out the night before. Maria and Tony immediately left work and began contacting every friend, acquaintance, or any connection Kenia had in hopes of finding out information on her whereabouts. That's when they learned troubling details from the group she had been out with the previous night. Kenia had been asked to leave the club alone and severely intoxicated without any means of contacting anyone or getting home safely. What's more, the group had Kenia's purse, phone, and keys which she had left behind at the club, thinking her friends would keep them safe for when she returned. But she never did. Her parents were beside themselves with worry, terrified something terrible had happened to their responsible daughter, who always let them know if she'd be out late or was crashing with friends. Tony started looking at Kenia's phone to find out something for at least a clue about her whereabouts. Then, a cryptic text arrived on Kenia's phone from a number she didn't have saved. It read, "Hey, this is Travis, the guy who gave you a ride last night. Creepy white van. Did you get home okay?" Tony found this message disturbing and immediately called the number, desperate for any clues about his missing daughter's whereabouts and well-being. He tried calling the number several times, but no answer. After a few hours, the same number called back. The man at the other end of the phone, Travis Forbes, spun a bizarre tale about encountering Kenia stumbling outside the club alone in the early morning hours. He claimed to have offered the intoxicated teen a ride, which she accepted. According to Travis, he had dropped a friend off first, leaving just him and Kenia in his van. He said she'd asked to stop for cigarettes, so he pulled into a gas station. That's when Kenia allegedly saw a homeless man named Dan and got out of the van to talk to him in Spanish, before walking off with Dan, leaving Travis behind. He sent the text the next day wondering if she had made it home okay. Tony found the story suspiciously full of holes and discrepancies that didn't mesh with his daughter's typically responsible behavior. Why would she have wanted to buy cigarettes without any money or credit cards? And getting into a stranger's van in the first place made no sense to him. Tony called the police again, but was still unable to file a report. Desperate, Tony agreed to meet Travis at the gas station where he had last seen Kenia. At the gas station, Tony met Travis and a police officer who was already there. Tony immediately noticed a strong chemical smell of bleach emanating from Travis's van. When the officer inspected the van, he found the storage area meticulously clean, which contrasted sharply with the garbage-filled front seat. This raised further suspicion, but without concrete evidence, the officer could only take a written statement from Travis and let him go. Despite his skepticism, all Tony could do was listen to Travis's claims and recount them to the authorities. But police refused to issue a missing persons report in those first 72 hours, insisting the likely scenario was that Kenia had just gone somewhere to sleep off her drunken night. Her frantic family became more worried, holding to a blind hope that she would come walking through the door at any minute. Finally, after 72 hours, Kenia's family was allowed to file a missing persons report. The investigation began with the story breaking on national and local news. CCTV footage of Kenia at a hotel with another man surfaced, showing her clearly intoxicated and stumbling through the lobby. For months, a purgatory of unanswered questions and desperation plagued Kenia's loved ones as the search carried on without any firm leads. Her father, Tony, fixated on trying to unravel Travis Forbes' fishy story about last seeing her. When the owner of a bakery rented by Travis reported seeing him on surveillance video moving a large cooler into the freezer unit in the wee hours after Kenia's disappearance, police began to take a harder look at him. Additional evidence like neighbor reports of Travis burning a mysterious barrel, his bizarre emotional performative breakdowns in local TV interviews about failing to get Kenia home safely, and revelations about his lengthy criminal history of violence only increased suspicion. But Forbes continued denying involvement and was still walking free as Kenia's family made public pleas for her return or any information that could help find her. Then, in July of 2011, a shocking development occurred that would finally expose the full extent of Travis Forbes' depravity. On July the 4th, 30-year-old Lydia Tillman was heading home after watching fireworks downtown when she was violently attacked upon entering her apartment building. A man grabbed her from behind, brutally beating and sexually assaulting the petite woman. In a feat of bravery and survival instincts, Lydia fought back against her larger attacker despite suffering a broken jaw and severe blows to the head. As she lay unconscious and nearly beaten to death, her assailant doused her body in bleach and set fire to her apartment in an attempt to cover his tracks. Flames engulfed the building as Lydia barely regained consciousness in time to throw herself from a second-story window and escape the inferno. She landed hard on the pavement below, gravely injured but still alive by a miracle. First responders rushed her to the hospital, where she would linger in a coma for weeks as police investigated the shocking crime scene of the burned debris, bleach, and DNA evidence from Lydia's valiant fighting that was left under her fingernails from the unknown attacker. As the investigation into Lydia's assault unfolded, clear patterns of modus operandi, like the bleaching of evidence, connected it to the case of the missing Kenia Monge and suspicions around Travis Forbes. Finally, on July the 10th, police arrested Forbes after he was caught behaving bizarrely while trying to lure another intoxicated woman away from the nightclub area. The next day, DNA results confirmed Forbes was Lydia's attacker. In exchange for avoiding the death penalty, the 31-year-old agreed to reveal the truth about what happened to Kenia Monge on that fateful night back in March. In a sickening admission, Forbes confessed to killing Kenia in a chilling manner similar to how he attacked Lydia months later. He had admitted taking the severely intoxicated 19-year-old from outside the 24K lounge back to his van with the intention of sexually assaulting her. When Kenia awoke and began fighting him off, the much larger Forbes violently strangled her to death right there in the front seat. He then stuffed Kenia's lifeless body into a large cooler he kept in his van before transporting it to the bakery he rented space in, which was caught on the bakery surveillance footage. Most shockingly, Forbes revealed he had buried Kenia's body in a grove of cottonwood trees off of Interstate 76 in the city of Kensburg over 40 miles away from where he had abducted her. For 5 agonizing months, her family had no idea where Kenia was or that she had already tragically been murdered in such a brutal way by the seemingly mild-mannered Travis Forbes. Police discovered the lifeless body of innocent Kenia 10 feet below the ground at the exact same location as Forbes had revealed. At the time he killed Kenia, Forbes was already on probation related to a domestic violence charge involving an ex-girlfriend. He had previous arrests for felony burglary, criminal harassment, assault, and a slew of other offenses that seemed to have escalated over time. Despite his apparent friendly, trustworthy demeanor that he even embodied in the wake of Kenia's disappearance, giving tearful interviews, pleading for her safe return, Forbes hid a profoundly disturbed, predatory interior. On September 26, 2011, the 31-year-old entered guilty pleas to charges of first-degree murder in Kenia's case and attempted murder in the assault on Lydia Tillman. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for Kenia's murder, plus an additional 48 years for the vicious attack on Lydia. The murder of Kenia Monge is a tragic reminder that life can change in an instant. Her murder may have gone cold, but the impact of her life and legacy continues to warm the hearts of those who knew her. But has justice been served? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay connected.